So we'll go ahead and get started into the Martin Family Foundation scholarships with UW Seattle. So for today, we'll go over the two scholarships, the different scholarship options, the details, giving some tips for how to apply. And the Q&A will go throughout today's workshop, but we'll also have time for that at the very end. So the UW Achievement Scholarship is the first one I want to talk about. These are our three scholars who are here today who have received the scholarship. So Chris and Lynn, who currently are at UW Seattle this year, they started this past fall 2020, and Kayla, who is our AS speaker of the caucus and is currently still at Highline and will be transferring to UW Seattle this fall 2021. So the UW Martin Scholarship for the achievement version is a fantastic scholarship for students who are planning to stay at Highline for one more year. So how the scholarship works is that it'll give you $5,000 for your last year here at Highline, and then it'll give you up to $12,000 per year for 3 years at UW. So in total, you can get up to $41,000 from the scholarship program. You have to be going to an eligible community college, so that includes Highline, so you'll be applying as a Highline student, and you need to have at least earned 15 community college credits. So overall, this scholarship is for students who know they want to go to UW Seattle, they're still continuing at Highline, and they would like that additional support, both in terms of financial support, but also in terms of advising and mentoring from the UW Seattle campus while they're completing their degree here at Highline. So this is the first scholarship. Some of the eligibility requirements for the scholarship primarily is that it's for Washington State residents, right? And you can meet that through 3 different ways. So that includes U.S. residents, U.S. permanent residents, or eligible undocumented students. For undocumented students, a lot of folks who might be meeting the eligibility will be folks who meet the HB 1079 standard. So that means students who were at Highline, who were in Washington State for 3 years prior to earning their Washington State high school diploma or GED. Overall, generally, these are the main thing to take from this page is if you are a Washington State resident, you can apply for the scholarship. So here's the honors one. So this one is specifically, it looks like 60% of the folks here in this room are going to be applying for this honor scholarship. This honor scholarship is for students who have been accepted to UW Seattle and plan to go. So this would be for students who are going to start in the summer or the fall. This can include students who are starting UW Seattle this upcoming spring quarter. So they are going to start their first quarter, spring 2021, and they will be applying for the scholarship to get it in the upcoming fall quarter. So you have to have at least 36 transfer credits from a Washington Community College. It really is talking, the scholarship for both of them really is to get to know your character, your intellectual ability, and your sense of purpose, especially related to your career goals and your passions. For the honor scholarship, based on my personal experience so far, it seems to be a bit more competitive because it's open to all potential transfer students who are going to UW Seattle versus the achievement one is limited to certain Washington State community college students. And the application process for that one, I think, includes just a couple more different questions that I think are a little bit more prompt, like coming to probe like really what you're about, what your career goals are. So this scholarship, in my personal opinion, feels a little bit more competitive. So this award is contingent on your admissions to UW Seattle. For both of the scholarships, it's both for UW Seattle, not for the other 2 UW campuses. And so if you get the scholarship, it's intended for you to use it at UW Seattle and not at UW Tacoma or Bothell. This scholarship is $12,000 per year for up to 3 years, and the funds can be pretty flexible. So here is a little bit more about the scholarship application itself. So you have an online application. There, it asks you for some basic biographical and educational information, and then there's 4 short response questions that we'll get into a little bit later. You'll need to submit your current unofficial transcripts, a resume that talks a bit more about your honors, awards, your services, your work experience, things like that. And then 2 letters of recommendation. So one of them has to be from a faculty member. So now is a really good time to Get to know your faculty members, remind them who you are and how good you're doing in their class. And the second one can be written by anyone who can address your capabilities, your volunteer or community involvement. So this could be like a supervisor, it could be your true advisor, an academic advisor, a faculty advisor, someone I would say who has seen you work in some capacity or have seen you, who has seen you really get involved in the community. So these are the four essays that you are asked in the program. So the first one, like I said, they are really specific questions. They aren't similar. They're not like those big, broad scholarship questions that you might see from other applications. The first one being, what are two of the most significant courses you've taken at the community college in preparation for your career, and to explain why these courses were most significant. The second one is to describe an activity or experience that has been important in shaping, clarifying, or strengthening your motivation to pursue an undergrad degree in your proposed field of study, and why did that experience influence you? The next one, which is really similar to question number two, I've noticed that people kind of have to think a little bit more about writing something different for questions two and three. But the third question is, describe a recent particularly satisfying experience or activity at either work, community service, or with your family. And like I said, do not repeat the experience described in the previous question. So you really have to think about the two different ones that you're going to write. And the fourth one is an open-ended question. What additional personal information do you wish to share with the Martin Scholarship Review Committee? For these questions, our three scholars here will go more into detail about what they wrote in their application, for these asked questions, and some tips and strategies for you. After that process, there is an interview for both the achievement and the honor scholarship. So for the achievement version, so this is for the students who will be continuing at Highline for another year. They will review your application first and identify who they want to interview. The interviews will be on May 11th with Martin Foundation board members who are friends of Ben and Carabel and alumni scholars. So these are some of the folks who interview you. I'm just going to throw this out for the TRIO students. Some of the committee members are pretty familiar with Highline College TRIOs. So if you're a TRIO student at Highline, mention that in your interview. And so, in getting ready for your interview, really review your application. Remember some of the things that you wrote about, and be prepared to answer in depth if they ask you something that you mentioned in your application and want to know more about it. Practice, right? Practice with a friend, practice with the tutoring center, the writing center, with your faculty members, whoever that you trust to get to practice this. And then be yourself, right? Part of the scholarship is that they want to know you as a student, and how you would really benefit from this scholarship. So from here is the UW Martin Honor Scholarship process. So generally, most of the people who are applying to this have already heard back that they had been admitted to UW Seattle, or they're in the process of waiting and they feel pretty confident that they're going to get admitted, because it is for students who are going to be starting at UW Seattle in the upcoming fall quarter. So the application period is open May to July. Um, you hear back in August for an additional essay component. So those essays can really range. I remember one time a student had a question that was about enlightenment. They had them read a reading from the Enlightenment period in the 1800s and then write a response to it. So it is a lot more rigorous than the Achievement Scholarship. And then you do an interview with the board in early September, and after then they'll decide who they want to name for the scholars. So for more information, there are the websites for the scholarship in general, the achievement application, and the honors application. So the achievement scholarship is actually due first. It's going to be due on Friday, April 9th. So it's actually due the first Friday of spring quarter. So now it's a good time to work on it, especially during spring break. Going to the writing center, checking with your advisors to kind of get some feedback. And then the honor scholarship is due in early July. So at this point, most folks would have heard back about their admissions decision for UW Seattle. So I think I'll go ahead and go over here. So these are some tips that the UW Office of Merits and Scholarship recommends for how to develop your candidacy for the scholarship and to become a good scholar. Um, and for the scholarship, but also any type of scholarships. So the first one is Maintaining a good GPA, but remembering it's not the only thing that matters, right? A lot of times, scholarship committees will try to see the whole candidate. They'll do a holistic review, which means that they try to see more about who you are than just your grades. Get involved in community service or extracurricular activities that match your interests and passions. So, internships, research, volunteering, any of those different things. Remembering that work and family obligations count. So a lot of my students who tell me things like, "Oh, I budget for my family," or "I translate all the documents for my family." I mentioned like that's a really important thing that a lot of students don't do. Those are things that people get paid to do, and so write about that in your application, right? That is a big responsibility that you have, and it could be something that really influenced who you are as a person and who you are as a student. So additional things about searching is just keeping in mind the search terms and the timelines as you are searching. I know a lot of times as you're getting ready to transfer, you worked really, really hard on your transfer application. It's submitted. You submitted on February 15th for UW Seattle, and now you're ready to look for scholarships. Um, that is always a good plan, but I actually would say that you should be looking for scholarships right away in the summer. Scholarships can be due anywhere between 6 to 18 months before you actually plan to use the funds, right? And so fall and winter quarter is a really common time for the deadline. So fall tends to be a lot of deadlines for national scholarships, while winter and spring are really common deadlines for local scholarships. And so the scholarship search really is continuous throughout the whole year and throughout any year or level you are at here at Highline. Um, Recommendations on how to stay organized and keep on track. And I think from here, actually, I think I might stop and hand it over to our scholars. I believe Chris was gonna go first. Okay, great.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Chris. I want to start off by saying Happy Friday. It's a really good day. I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Whoa. So I'm still figuring this out. Can you guys see this? All right,
Yes, we can
cool.
see it.
So I was at Highline College from 2018 to 2020. I transferred to UW this past fall, and I applied for the scholarship back in 2019. So quick little background about myself. So I grew up in LA. I come from a low socioeconomic status background, and from there, my dad always told me, if you want to get out of the ghetto, you either got to go to college or you got to join the military. And at the time, my sophomore year of high school, I had a 0.8 GPA, so I figured that school wasn't for me at the time. So I enlisted in the military. And shortly after enlisting in the military, at 18, I married Teddy. That's her right there. And then, I did a few years as a rifleman. And then came Mila, and I had her right before my second deployment. And during my deployment, I saw how some of my friends, like they come from nice homes, nice families, and everything. And I realized that the common theme they all had was, their parents had an education and they did school and they were able to provide for them. So then that's when I decided that, I want to do school for my daughters, to give them a better life. So during my deployment, I enrolled in Ashford University. I started taking classes online, and then I had a good time with that. But I'm not an online learner, so I'm definitely struggling with this whole Zoom university situation. So when I came back from deployment, I enrolled into Copper Mountain College. This is in California. It's a community college, and I was there for like two semesters. And then during this time, it was around the time where Teddy and I were trying to decide where we're going to go to next, since my time was finishing the military. And we were watching Grey's Anatomy, and Grey's Anatomy is based out of Seattle, and we fell in love with the idea of Seattle, so we just decided to come up here. So we came to Washington May 2018, and a month later, I started taking classes at Highline College. During that time, okay, I guess a quick note. Let's go back here. During my time in Copper Mountain College, a little before enrolling, I witnessed a motorcycle accident. And during that motorcycle accident, there was two Marines that were on their motorcycles. They ended up crashing and pretty much died in front of me, and I couldn't do anything about it, so I felt bad. So I looked into taking an EMT course, and during the course at Copper Mountain College, it was the first time ever in my life, I could say, that I enjoyed reading a textbook. So I realized that I guess if I enjoy what I'm studying, I could actually do it. So then that's when I got introduced to healthcare. And then I finished the EMT course, got my certificate, came here in Washington, and then I started working as an EMT while being a full-time student at Highline College. I was obviously trio student. That's like the best thing that happened right there for obvious reasons. And then I was also volunteering at the fire department, and then I was a part of the Veterans Club. And then Teddy got pregnant again, so we this is a current picture of my two little girls. So yeah, I was a father, volunteering, working, and doing school, and it sucked, but it was a good time. And then with the essay, so I got the idea of the scholarship, trio. Kathy was like, "Hey, there's this awesome scholarship. You should look into it." So I looked into it and I fell in love with the idea of it. I decided, why not? What do I have to lose? Worst case scenario, I practice writing essays and interviewing. So I did, and the first essay, the two courses, I mentioned my EMT course, and then Chem 161, Gen Chem 1. So I chose an EMT course because it introduced me to healthcare. It showed me that I could actually study and be successful in a class. And then it's pretty much taught me how to think with an analytical mindset. And then for Gen Chem 1, it was my first real STEM course, and it sucked, but it taught me how to study, made me a better student, and just gave me, I guess, a better understanding of what I'm getting myself into. And then so for me personally, the essays took me the longest. Yeah. So with the essays, I would recommend get started early. Just if you have an idea, just write them down. And if you get writer's block, just take a weekend, chill with your family. Have some good company, and then once you clear your head, then try again and just keep trying. And with the essays, have people look them over, two, three people, Kathy for sure, or anyone in trio. And then Grammarly saves me for in everything that I do because my grammar sucks, but Grammarly helps. For the letter recommendations, I say just shoot your shot. If you feel nervous about it, worst case scenario, they say no, and that's about it. I chose to do my EMT supervisor and my camp professor. At the time, it was Erica Chong, and I was nervous asking, but it ended up working out, and it was a good experience. And with that, I would say ask people that you're involved with. So like office hours, you actually participate in class. Because like if you're a student that just sits in the back and never go to office hours, it'll be if they do write you a letter, it'll be very, I guess, general. So you want to be a little more intimate. And then when you're writing your essay, share your story. Like just keep it real. Be genuine, and don't fabricate a story. So like if you think, hey, if I word it this way, it might help out your case, but really they'll be able to see through it. So just keep it real. So the next step. So after applying for it, I received an interview, and I was really nervous for it. So I showed up, and there's like 8 people in a table. You walk in and sit down, say hi to everybody. And this email, it's a email I sent it a few hours after the interview to Kathy, just so I could write down my thoughts or everything they asked me. And so they start off with the basic, tell us about yourself. And then I told them the 14 to define me and my background. So growing up from LA, coming from a interesting family, Teddy Mila, being married at 18, having my girls, the military, gave me a strong work ethic. And then my EMT experiences just kind of guided me to keep going. And then subjects that came up, what high school did I go to? What was your experience like as a Marine? What did I take away from the Marines? They asked why I have the transcripts. So at the time it was Ashford University, Copper Mining College, and then Highline College. So I was all over the place, but I explained that to them. And then they want to know about the paramedic route, or why do I want to go that route, or what I want to do. And, the follow-up questions was, why do I want to become a doctor, not a paramedic? And with that, it was pretty much that being an EMT is amazing, but I want to do more than just drop off the patient. I want to follow them through. And then they asked if I was working full time, which I was. And then they asked me, at the time, I guess I had solid grades, but I did have a 2.3 in my math 141. And I told them that I was overwhelmed with work, school, and everything. So they understand that, you're human. So you just keep it real with them. And then, what rank I got out of the Marines, what organizations I was a part of. Then they asked me, I guess, like Kathy mentioned, they know Highline. So they asked me if I know A, and, it's something to talk about. And then they asked me, what does my spouse think about becoming a doctor? So, everything took about 20 to 25 minutes. You just try to smile, make them smile. And then, yeah, for me, one of my flaws is when I get nervous, my armpits sweat. So I was very insecure the whole time I was interviewing, but it is what it is. Tips. So I already mentioned the people you ask for letters of recommendations for the essays. Start early, take your time, have people triple check it. Grammarly, don't sell yourself short. You know, everyone comes from a unique background. Just tell your story. You know, and then when you interview, just be yourself, going with the mindset that regardless, it was a great learning experience because it's true. You know, if I didn't get the scholarship, I still learned how to interview in front of 8 people. I still practice writing essays, and then the last one, you know, use Kathy. So this is the activity we may or may not be doing later on, and it's pretty much why I want to be a physician or why it is you want to do whatever career you want to do. And for me, it's kind of all over the place, but coming from a low socioeconomic status background, you know, I have a lot of patients that I was able to relate to them. You know, like you know, I'm Hispanic. I come from the ghetto too, so like they'll tell like they wouldn't want to talk to other firefighters because they wouldn't understand them. But then here I come and I talk to them like we're back in the block, and you know, they tell me what's going on. And then doing CPR, you know, gave me the adrenaline that I wanted in a career, and bringing someone back to life is the most rewarding thing I've experienced. And then here is the motorcycle accident I was talking about, and that's where I got the idea of looking into emergency medicine. And then I, you know, want to do more than just drop off the patient at the hospital. I want to follow them through. And then, you know, while working as an EMT, I've had several Hispanic patients that, you know, like they could only speak Spanish, you know, and then there's like 4 or 5 white firefighters and they feel very uncomfortable about it. But then I come in and I speak Spanish to them, and then they're able to open up and communicate with me, and that just feels it's very humbling. And then they tell me, hey, we need more people like you in the healthcare field. But I guess most importantly for me, you know, being a father of 2 daughters and being first gen student, education is important for me because I want to show my daughters that whatever it is you want to do in life, you can do it. You know, the only barrier we have is overcome your own mindset, and that's it.
I'll go ahead and hand it over. Lynn or Kayla, anyone want to go next?
Yeah, I can go. Let me go ahead and rearrange my screen and present. So my name is Kayla Pezzolano. I am a UW Martin Achievement Scholar from this past year, 2020. I'm also still a Highline College student. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a regular student around campus, but also I'm the ASHC Speaker of Caucus. So I'm your student body, part of your student body, and that means it may seem a little intimidating, but I'm also very accessible. It's my job to be accessible to you. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll share my information as well. So a little background about me is that I'm from New York City. I moved here about 2 years ago. And I was just looking for a new opportunity. My boyfriend of 4 years had lived out here. So when the opportunity presented itself to come out here, I jumped on it. I've visited Washington a couple times before that, and I just really loved it out here. I'm also a first generation college student, so which is why it was very important that I get out of my circumstances and really just broaden my horizons and do something different from what not only but I was used to, but also generationally within my family, breaking those barriers. So when I moved out here and I was looking for a job, I had been working in the admin field for about 6 years. But then when I was applying for jobs, it was a chance conversation I had with one of the hirers, and she was looking at my resume and she was like, "Oh, I'd love to bring you on board. I'm so impressed." And she was like, "You sound young. Do you mind if I talk to you for a bit?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I wasn't going to turn down any advice. So she was like, "Are you looking to get into finance?" Because my background in the admin field was based in a lot of accounting firms and stuff like that. So she was like, if you're not looking to get in finance, like, you're on the wrong path, because I'll tell you right now, that's where you're going. So I reevaluated and decided to go back to school. And that's when I enrolled at Highline, and the scholarship was introduced to me. It was also introduced by Kathy and Tria. So when it comes to the scholarship, I'm calling it as me giving you the tea, because I'm going to give you the full disclosure of what my experience was and how just my story with the whole process. So as I said, Kathy told me about the scholarship, and I I didn't apply for it right away. I kept on putting it off, and a couple of weeks before it was due, I was going through a bad breakup. The reason I moved out here was crumbling. It just felt like my life was like going down the drain. Now I'm looking for a new apartment. I'm also a full-time student and I'm working. So I'm trying to balance all these things, and doing four essays, getting 2 recommendations, it seemed like so much. It seemed like something that I was thinking it was something I couldn't afford to do. I couldn't make time for this. But Kathy just told me, like, Kayla, it's worth it. Like, apply for it. And usually and this is not to encourage procrastination, it's the exact opposite, and but Kathy had told me, because you need those two recommendations, and it's always with any recommendations, the better you can ask, well, the more ahead of time you can ask somebody, the better. So I was only giving the people who were supposed to write my recommendation like a week to write it. But Kathy said she'd do it. I reached out to her coworker and they did it. They did have a limited amount of time, but I got that out of the way, and I made a decision to commit to the application process. And I feel like that's a big thing. Like, if you're going to do this, which you should, it's a lot of aid. I would have missed out on what's going to pay my tuition when I transfer UW. I thought that wasn't worth my time, but obviously it was. And so when it comes to the classes that the application asks you for and the essays, it asks you for 2 questions, for 2 classes that you took that have to deal with where you want to be in life, how it ties back to your career. So I chose my American Diversity class and my public speaking class because I aspired to be a community leader and a writer. So I felt like my public speaking class really helped me develop my voice. And then my American Diversity class gave me an understanding of my community. So I had more knowledge to offer. And then also, when it comes to the essays, like, me as a writer, I had an easy time sort of writing them, but I spent so much time editing them. I mean, I was on the computer all day rereading and rereading these essays. So definitely take your time with them. And when you're reading the essay questions, make sure that you're hitting each part, what they're asking for, make sure you're answering that. And then when it came to the interview process, it was quite intimidating because there was a lot of people interviewing you, but you need to be confident. I remember one of the people interviewing me had asked me a question, and the question kind of didn't sit well with me. It seemed it was, so he asked me, like, oh, well, you have a lot to go. Because I'm planning on transferring to UW in the fall. So he's like, if you're planning on transferring in the fall of 2021, you have a lot of credits to do. And I was very firm with the response of, I've been able to meet all of my requirements, and I'm on track to graduating and going to UW in the fall of 2021. And what I said to him is still true today. I'll be graduating next quarter. So don't feel intimidated by them. And if they ask you a question, like, own your space. That's your interview. And they're going to make you comfortable. They'll explain that to you, but just know that within yourself. And really just, like I said, it's worth your time. And when it comes to writing the essays, also what I did was I really just told my story. I used it as a channel to let it all out and write it down. Doesn't mean that your essays have to be necessarily a sob story, but whatever it is that makes you you, and the reason why you want to go to this school and the reason why you're pursuing your career, you need to express that and really put it all. I felt like I did. I was proud of my essays when I was done. And even though it only took me a week to actually do it, I put a lot of time and effort into it while I was doing it. And those are really my tips for applying. And I will add one more thing, is that I Lynn actually, she helped me. She sent me over her essays because I knew she had won the scholarship. So I looked at hers, and it helped me get the scholarship. So listen to the advice that you're getting. And on the website, I'll link it in the chat. They have a place where past applicants give advice to future applicants. So that's all there. There's like an archive of advice. Read it, read as much as you can. And then actually somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn because I posted I had won the scholarship, and he asked me for advice. I gave him advice, and Morale went on to win one of the scholarships for the Martin Honor Scholarship for 2020, I believe. So if you hope the you're looking at people who won the scholarship. It's not scholarships are not just out there floating around. People are actually receiving them. So put yourself out there, commit to doing the application, and yeah, just give it your all and get it done. And I'm here to support you, as well as everybody else at Highline and the other panelists. Thank you.
Thanks, Kayla. And pass it over to Lynn, and feel free to add questions to the chat.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Um, my name is Srenin Sam, and I go by Lynn, so you can call me Lynn. Currently, I'm at UW. I'm doing Bachelor of Social Welfare in School of Social Work. So if any of you want to reach out about the program itself, also you can hit me up. It's a very good program. Yeah, I am a Martin Achievement Scholar in 2019. It was 2 years ago. A little bit about myself. So I'm a first generation student. I am an immigrant from Cambodia. I came to the US in 2018. So it's been probably around 3 years I've been here. When I was at Highline, I was a Speak Up the Caucus of student government. So what Kayla is doing right now. Um, and I got my associate degree in communication study, and then I transferred to UW with into the social welfare program over there. My interest, I love helping immigrants from refugee community and also other vulnerable community as a whole. Yeah, currently I work as a program coordinator at ODMF. It's stand for Open Doors for Multicultural Family in Kent, that helps individual with developmental and intellectual disability. And I am also a community safety ambassador for Seattle Office of Emergency Management as well. I'm also a Khmer interpreter, Khmer translator, and Khmer tutor for Khmer community. So, answering the questions, at that time that I was I was applying for this position, for this scholarship. It was in 2019. I was in an exploring stage where, like, I am a new person in the US. I'm a new person in Washington State. I've been here at that time. I've been in Washington for 8 months. In the US for 8 months. So I'm still like trying to figure out myself and try to seek out resources on campus and off campus as well. Um, and I was a freshman back then. I was involved in TRIO with Anna Peasy, PTK, Center for Leadership and Services, and other resources on campus. And I try to volunteer different places on campus and off campus. At that time, I was a outreach ambassador at ACRS, and I was like trying to build connections with professors and advisor, because at that time, I was really new to here and I don't know anybody. So I just trying to reach out and exploring a lot of different resources. And the class that I write for my first essay was communication study 220. It's public speaking class, and psychology 120. So at that time my major was communication, but then I changed my major to social work after. So but I think these two class was really helpful for me. And my tip for you guys is to write any classes that you like and you have a lot to talk, and any class that you think that is really important for you personally and professionally. It's really important for your goals. So what's your goal and how can that class help you with your goals? Yeah, the application process in general. So yeah, I was writing 4 essays and two recommendation letter from one of your academic professor and another one from your advisor. So mine at that time was one from Kathy and one from my public speaking professor. And then when I was writing the essay at that time, like as an immigrant and English is my second language, and it's just like writing is just not easy for me because you just not really like n- know much about English, and then you write in English. So I allowed myself a lot of time to write the essay. So at that time, I think I do the prepping for like 1 month and a half before I submit it, and I did a lot. Like I brainstorm it with my professor, with Kathy, and then I write it, and then ask them to review and give me feedback, and then just have a lot of people to look over my essay as well. So I think for me, 1 month and a half is enough for me, and it depends whether you're really comfortable like writing, or if not. It depends on like your English, and whether you really like good at writing or not, because you also want to make this to be a really good essay, because this scholarship, if you get it, you get a lot of money and it's really competitive. Yeah, and I encourage you guys to use your unique and authentic story, because if you get to be selected to be a finalist, the questions some of the questions from the board members will ask you related to your goals, and especially something from the essay that you wrote. So the interview process, um, they notify by email. So if you got selected to be a finalist, they will contact you, and then after that, I prep the interview with my advisors, with Kathy, Eileen, and I did that for a couple times, not just one time. I did that. I come back home, rehearse, and try to search for different possible questions. Yeah, and then I like make appointment with Kathy and other professor just to like preparing and rehearsing my interview, and dress professionally. And I know probably right now they're gonna do on Zoom, but dressing professionally is really recommended, because this is a really competitive scholarship. And I think there's gonna be 8 board members who's gonna ask you questions. So be yourself, and just like I talked about, just find anything that is unique for you, that is inspiring for you, for your goal, and why do you want to be that person in the future? What makes you want to be that person? The tips, so I recommend give yourself a shot. At that time, I was not really believing in myself, because like I said, at that time I was just a new immigrant coming to the US for less than a year. I didn't know anything about education, and I just was dealing with imposter syndrome, that I don't really believe in myself, that like how can I get that scholarship while I just know nothing? And at that time, I just want to give a huge credit to Kathy. um I remember that time that I asked Kathy, like, do you think that I can do it? And then she's like, yes, you can do it. You're really awesome. And so I'm just gonna give myself a shot. And here I am. So I don't know. I just want to say thank you. And I'm so thankful for Kathy for, I mean, you just really like changed my life, from a young girl who know nothing, and to be here where I'm now. I applied this scholarship because Kathy told me, because Kathy helped me, and I'm at UW right now is also because of Kathy. And I don't know, it's just really helpful to have someone who always like see the best in yourself. So, and you also have to believe in yourself as well, because at that time I was not believing myself. And if there's no Kathy, I won't be able to get the scholarship. So I think believing in yourself is the first place to start. Um, and your story, just talk about your goal, talk about what makes you strong. I know that each of us are different and we all have our own story. Maybe you don't really know what story you're going to talk about yourself because you haven't thought of it. So that's something that you can work with your advisor, that's something that you can work with your professor, and be clear about your goal, and talk about what you've done to develop yourself, to make change in yourself and in your community, and be clear about your goal. um, I would say that seeks help from your professor and advisor. When I was doing it, I seek lots of help from Kathy and one of my other professor, Lisa Voso. I'm not really sure that any of you know her. She was my communication class professor, and she's really helpful. Just want to say thank you to her too. She's not here. But yeah, I think it's really important for you to build connection with your advisor and your professor. And if some of you doesn't have an advisor yet, you should try to get one, because you need to have a recommendation letter, one from your professor and one from your advisor. And one of my tip is use the last essay. Like last essay, I think we can talk. There's no exact questions to the last one, the fourth one. So at that time, my fourth essay was really powerful, and it's just like the first three questions they ask you to answer, and you answer the questions, but the last questions basically I talk about what inspired me and my life story. So I think I use the last questions really in a powerful way to persuade them. And lastly, I just read through my essays last night, and I get this, and I think this is really inspiring. Despite the hard times in life, I strive for achievement, and I will keep this energy to enhance my potential in the future. Yeah, thank you, everybody, and good luck. And hit me up if you need anything. You need to talk to me about my essay, or you need my essays, or you just want to talk about going to UW, or you want to be in social work program, or with anything, just you can contact me anytime. And thank you all.
Thank you. In writing about our essays, we really want to think a lot about the why, right? In the question, answering the why, answering the what, and answering the how. So, as an example, here's the first one. I've always wanted to be an educator. From this statement, I really don't know anything that much from the student. I wouldn't be able to tell anybody why they want to be an educator, how they have prepared themselves to be an educator. I just want to know. I just know that they want to be an educator. So from this next one, I see education as a way out of poverty, and that's why I've always wanted to be an educator. So again, I know a little bit more about why they want to go into education. I know what they want to do education, but it's still not that's still not that much, right? As an advisor, as someone who has helped review and score scholarship essays, this really doesn't tell me that much about that student. For the third statement, as a three-time college dropout who worked to make ends meet, education has pulled me out of poverty, and I want to provide that to other college students as an educator. So again, I know the what about education, I know a little bit more about the why, and I'm starting to get a little more about the how. How did they get into this, right? So their experience coming in and out of college. The fourth example we have, growing up with foster sisters, I saw how public schools failed my sisters. I dropped out of 3 colleges by the time I was 20 and felt like colleges failed me. I struggled to make ends meet and decided to go back to college. That's where I met an advisor who cared about me and looked like me. Transformational advising lifted me out of poverty. Today I know my calling, and is to pay that forward by being the best transformative educator I can. So again, I know the what, they want to be an educator, and they specifically want to work with advising. I know a little bit more about the why, their personal experience growing up with their family, their own personal experience going in and out of school, And a little bit more about the how, right? How they got there was meeting an advisor who looked like them and helped them get to where they are now. And then finally, here is the last example, which we think is a really good way to answer those three questions, right? The why, the what, and the how. So just to kind of skim this through really quick, they speak about their family experience, right? Seeing how public schools had failed them, what they were doing besides going to school, that they were working for 6 years, and how that, like, what that taught them, how that prepared them to go into school, going back to school for a reason, finding an advisor who helped them, who looked like them, who encouraged them. Because of that, how that has called them to become an educator and work in transformative advising. Specifically, what they want to do with that, right? That they want to remove barriers to college, especially for people who've experienced foster care. They want to make education a right rather than a privilege. And then they're saying specifically, a degree from this college is the way I plan to do this. And so again, as you're writing your essays, be really specific. Think about, like, are you answering the what, the why, and the how? So like, what are you doing? How did you do it? How did you get there? And why are you interested in that? And then I tell a lot of my students this too. I think I probably have told Lynn, Chris, and Kayla this. Is that we all know that people want to help people. We all know people want to make money. We all know people want to transfer. But how is that specific to you, right? Like, why do you want to help people specifically? Why do you want to transfer? And why do you want to transfer to school? Why do you want to make money? Like, even answering that, right? Like, that being something to lift you out of poverty, or that to help take care of your family. So from here, a bubble chart to kind of start you practicing on your essay. So an example, you're going to start with like a thesis statement, right? So this one is saying, I want to be an engineer. And then you're going to go out to different arrows to describe a little bit more about like how, what, and why that got you there, right? So for how, this person talks about how freeways are always being built in their low income neighborhoods, and it would remove the parks and homes nearby. A little bit more about the how, their sister getting asthma and then getting worse with the construction of the I-5 off ramp, right? Again, a little bit more about the how, taking engineering classes at Highline and learning about how science and math can build things to improve the lives of people. And then a little bit more about the why and how here, right? Learning about people-centered design. So things like making things that actually work for people and naturally flow with the way that people think and live and exist in the world, right? So if you have a push and pull door, you only put a handle on the pull side so that people know, like, that's the thing that you pull.